my age, multitasking. So as I say, morning everybody. So today we're going to look at quite a few different case scenarios, but ultimately we're focusing around how we get things to show in a suitability letter and how we look at these different areas. When we create those different areas, what impact that has on the suitability letter and how we do it. Now, I'll get this right out there straight away. We are not going to have time to cover in an hour all of the possible scenarios that you may come across. So bear that in mind. I'm just really trying to give you some functionality, some mechanics around how you do these sorts of things, and then individual case scenarios will drive slightly different as you do it, it'll be slightly different. So just bear with us on that. I'm just going to show you as much as I can, but then obviously when you have an individual case scenario, it's going to change things slightly. Okay, so let's have a look first of all at a multi-product. Whether this is a product transfer or a porting case, the mechanics are very similar. Remember, a product transfer is going to be a remortgage case, and a porting case is going to be a house move. So let's just have a look at this first of all. What I wanted to show you in here is this particular account has 3 different mortgages attached to it. And I want to show you that we're just going to remortgage one of them and we're going to leave 2 running as well and show you what impact that has on the suitability. So as we go through today, I've created a lot of cases for speed. So I've filled in fact finds, etc. But what I'll do is I'll just show you the things that we need to be aware of. So the first thing is obviously if it's a product transfer, we create it as a remortgage case. So, and then in our fact find, what we do is we put the total amount in, okay? So in this case, there are 3 loans on this case. One's 100, one's 40, and one's 10. So we put that total amount in. Now, we're not going to remortgage all 3, but we put the total amount in because we're going to continue with some of them. We're going to continue with the existing products for some of them. I'm just letting some more people in. I'm trying to do my best not to lose my focus too much. Okay, so we put in the case details, put your existing term mortgage in, etc., all the usual questions that you would normally answer, and then go through and complete your fact find as you normally would. And then we're going to go into the properties tab. And then in the properties tab, this is our property that we're going to remortgage. So I'm just going to open that property up and obviously fill in the client's details. I've already done that. So we've got the valuation, we've got the existing property details, what the property is used for, when it was built, etc. So all the normal existing property details, okay? And then as we scroll down, we've got our existing products. And you can see here, we've currently got 3 existing mortgages on this property. So one's for 100,000, and I've just made up the numbers. Obviously, when you're putting this in, be really, really careful that you're putting the correct numbers in. Just take your time and make sure you're doing it correctly, because obviously this is going to impact on what you see in your sourcing and obviously what's produced in your ESIS, etc. So just take your time, making sure you're getting everything as exact as you possibly can. So we got a couple of early repayment charges. I've made them up, so I know the rates are not that relevant to today, but I've just made them up for demonstration purposes. And then we've got our next, which is 40,000, our next part of the mortgage. And again, slightly different repayment charges, slightly different dates. And then again, our third part of the product. Okay, so we go in and we literally create those products. How do we do that? Well, once we've gone into the property and we've finished our property, we literally click on add a mortgage and then fill in the details. And of course, do that as often as there are products. So in our case, we did it 3 times. Okay, let's see. So once we've done that and we've added everything in, we filled all of our fact finding, we go down to our sourcing. And then what we're going to do is we're going to complete our preferences. I've done them already, but make sure you're completing the preferences. And then you can just go either here and run your sourcing, or you can go over here on the left and run your sourcing. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go in and run our sourcing. I think I may have left a product in there, so just bear with me 2 seconds. Let me just check I've not left a product in from a previous example, because I expected to see something slightly different there. So let me just check that. Okay, so yeah, we've got our shortlisted product in there. Let me just remove that. Okay. Because you wouldn't have that in, you'd have your existing products and then you would run your sourcing. And what we're looking to do is we're looking to bring through our products. Oops, that's someone else in. We're looking to bring through our products and maintain it. But because we're looking at depending on what your scenario is, will depend on your sourcing. But because we're looking at three, what's the word I'm looking for? Constituent parts to this product, then acre sourcing doesn't support that. So we have to manually create our product because we're keeping two and we're sourcing on a new one. So we're just going to go back to our products. So this is why I turned the camera off. It's slowing down, sharing screens and things like that. So we're just going to go back to our products. And what we're going to do is we're going to manually add a product in, okay? So we're just going to add in the product that we want to source, and we're going to remortgage our 100,000, okay? So just bear with me while I do some typing. And I'm just going to make these figures up. I know they wouldn't necessarily be true. I'm just making the figures up for speed. Okay, and I think we had 16 years and a month left on our mortgage. Okay, is it second charge? No, this is really important. We're going to come back to this in a second. We're going to just choose HSBC just to keep things simple. And I'm just going to call the product test. You would obviously call it what the product name was. So basically, you've got the product details here of the new remortgage, and you're adding those into this here so that we can put it on our sourcing, and we can source and create our suitability report with the new mortgage and the existing mortgages. Okay, so we go through. I'm just going to pop some details in here. I'm making them up, so bear with me. I don't know if you do get 0.35 or 0.3. I'm just going to pop them in. Okay. And we're going to say there are some early repayment charges on our new mortgage. So we're going to say, yes, there's an early repayment charge, and we're going to add that in. And the early repayment charge we're going to say is, I don't know, 2% till the 28th of the 6th. I don't know, 2028, whatever it is. Okay, you will put in whatever it is. Then what is the current product rate? I don't know, let's say that's 3%. Okay, and that current product rate is till the 28th of the 6th, 2028. Okay, and then that's a fixed. And then after that, it would revert to standard variable, let's say 5%. And that's going to be variable for the end of the term. So what we've added in basically is our new product that we're going to source and add into our sourcing. But then we also want to add in or the products that we want to continue. So add any products which will be continuing alongside the mortgage. So we want the 40,000 to continue, and we want the 10,000 to continue. I'm just going to get rid of the 100,000. So the 40,000 and 10,000 is going to continue. And then we scroll back up and we're going to save that product. Hopefully I've not missed anything, but Acre's one of those things that when you miss something, it quite happily will tell you that you've missed it. Either by a big message saying you missed it, or by somebody saying, no, you can't go any further. So we've got our product in there, we've got our existing product, and then we're going to go across to our sourcing. So what we've done in essence is we built our sourcing. So when we run our sourcing, then we should, I'm hoping, fingers and everything else, great. We should then get our products at the top here. So we've got our HSBC product, our existing product, and our top-up product. Now, again, you know that we've got two existing products. The sourcing doesn't show the two products separately on here, but it does, I'm assured it does calculate all the figures in the background. Okay, so again, just for speed, we're just going to select that product because we've already put all of that in. And as you can see, you've got your normal things here. These are exactly the same as the normal, and then we just save to the case. Okay. Okay, so that's saved across to the case, and then we're going to go back into our case. Yeah, Alex, your result was on 141. It depends on the product you're adding in. The product may not necessarily be the lowest cost on the market. I just put in some random figures to make it come on the top so we didn't have to scroll down. Of course, whatever product you're recommending or you're discussing with your client will be based on their individual circumstances. So it might come further down. So yeah, it can be sometimes a long way down. So there's our product. And you can see here that we've got our continuing products, and they're going to continue alongside. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make a recommendation for that particular product that we've just created, and we've got our product continuing alongside. Usual stuff that'll come up. I didn't put any product fees in here. You potentially would have product fees because you would be creating it from a real product, but I didn't put any product fees in here. Okay, so you make your recommendation. One of the key things to really reiterate with that is when you're putting that product in, just take your time and make sure that you're putting it in exact, because it's going to drive your ESIS, it's going to drive all of your suitability report and all of your sources. Just make sure that you're just taking your time and getting every little thing right. Sometimes it can be a little frustrating if you try and do it at speed and you think you've done everything right, and then all of a sudden something's completely wrong. And by the time you go back and check everything, you do notice it, but sometimes it can be really frustrating. So just take your time until you get really used to it. So we've made a recommendation of our product. Okay, so the loan amount, etc. I know the figures are not realistic. I've just popped them in for effect. So what we're going to do is over here, we're going to go to the left and we're going to click on suitability. And then we're going to click on mortgage. Now, part of the link that you've all dialed into showing you how to automate to use and get into the suitability report. So master the automated mortgage suitability letter. Most of this functionality, and we're going to look at quite a few of them, most of this functionality is driven by the product and then driven by the recommendation. But a lot of the boxes that we see in here, you can fill in as you come through the fact find. Now, they differ depending on the product and depending on the circumstances. So you have the option really of either filling lots of things in the fact find when you may be having a discussion with your client, or if not, leave it till you come to the suitability letter and then just literally fill it in the boxes as we go through. Okay, so again, some of the boxes are optional in some of the cases and some of them are mandatory, but just type in whatever's relevant to your client as you go through. What I really want to show you is the structure of the letter. So we've got here a summary of our product. We've got the usual stuff, scope of advice, etc. The client's objectives. So they wanted to borrow 150,000 overall. But as you'll see when we go through the letter, it says you are continuing with some of those products. So the actual product we've recommended is just the 100,000. So reason for your preferences, you would fill it in obviously properly. And then you can see here, you have a current outstanding balance mortgage made up of 3 products, which are detailed below. So we've got our 100,000. That's the one we're going to remortgage. Okay. And then we've got our 40,000, and then we've got our 10,000. Okay. And then as we scroll down further on, we've got the normal stuff around affordability of budget. Again, type in what's appropriate to your client. Don't type that rubbish in. Okay. And then scroll down, credit history, if there was any, that would populate through. And then this is the recommendation that we're making. And you can see the figures I put in. Obviously, yours would be the correct figures. And then I recommended a new component. Sorry, I recommend that you pay your new component on a repayment basis, and then details of your existing products that will be continuing alongside. And then the products that we'd already put in, the existing products, have pulled through. Okay. Obviously, total borrowing is now 150. That's continuing these and the new remortgage. And then why? Okay, again, I'm not being rude here and saying it's not important, but you don't need to watch me type in reasons as to why we've done what we've done. You will type in what you've done and what you've the reasons you've done it. Okay, and then literally scroll down. Our suitability report is complete, so you can see that it brings through the existing mortgages and shows all of the ones that you're keeping, etc. Once you're happy with all of that and you've filled everything in as normal, then just go along, save your changes, okay? And then you would publish your report and walk through. For those of you that's been on the training, we walk through to a completion of the case anyway. So you would just literally publish your report. For some reason, it's taking ages to publish. That always frightens me. Oh, there we go. I was going to say it always frightens me because then you think, what's it not done? Go into your documents tab, add your documents as normal, and then follow the case through. Okay. So I think we've had a few questions around audio, etc. I think everybody's sorted now. But okay, keep popping your questions in there. Fatma will do her best, and I think some of the ACRE champions are on board as well. But as I say, if you can focus on keeping those to what we're talking about today, that would be really helpful. Okay, so we're going to move on to a let to buy case. And again, I've set up a case just so we can try and keep it, because I say obviously that's the rude thing to say. It's not obvious to everybody all of the time. but some of the things that we're putting into fact finds, etc., are going to be literally the same thing. So client data is the same things. What if we want to change term on an existing part of the mortgage? Then it's the bit that you're remortgaging. When you create the product, you would create the term that was relevant to that particular one. Okay, so if you were remortgaging the 100,000 and you were doing it over 15 years instead of 16 for whatever reason, or 30 over instead of 16, then when you create the product, you would put the mortgage term in. And the letter does state that, I think on mine you may have seen it though, it said one of them was 7 months different. It will work that out and will tell you that. Okay, so where are we going? Let to buy. Okay, where with me? I've got a case set up for a let to buy. Samantha, let to buy. Where's she gone? Got that many on here now. Okay. So a let to buy product, you're going to, and again, I'm not going to insult your intelligence and explain what a let to buy product is. I'm sure you know, but you are remortgaging an existing product onto a buy to let product in order to then go and buy another product. So your case will start as a buy to let remortgage. Okay, so what we're first of all going to do is we're going to look at the let to buy mortgage. We'll do that, and then you would just complete a purchase on the new property for the clients. Well, the key really is that it's a buy to let remortgage. So in our fact find, we'll go into our case details. Just gonna have a sip of water. And we fill in our case details. Our term is 20 years. Our loan that we want to remortgage is 200,000. Okay. We don't need to put any equity or anything like that in. That can throw the figures out. We're going to put the value of the property in when we get to the property details, and Acre will work out the differences. I think we've had a couple of questions about somebody saying there's a mismatch in the mortgage amounts. It could possibly, it might not be. I've not looked at the individual case. I just saw the message. It could possibly be that you've put equity or a deposit in there. So if it's a remortgage, put in the amount that you're remortgaging, and then when you put the property details in, it will work it out. Okay. So we've got all of our normal client details, etc., etc. We're just going to go across to our properties. Okay, and this is the property that we're going to remortgage, and we're going to remortgage to a buy to let. So again, your property details, fill them in as they're appropriate to your client. Most of the time you'll be able to do a postcode search and a lookup. Sometimes you can't. We can see here we've got our purchase price is 250 and our valuation is 250. Okay, is the property part of a home ownership scheme? No, it's not. We're going to look at a right to buy later on, so I'll show you how that works as well. And does the property have a mortgage attached to it? Yes. Fill in your normal property details as you go down. But over here on the right, what you can see here I've done is I've made the property now going to be tenanted because this will drag some figures through to the suitability report. And again, the figures need to be appropriate, and what you put in needs to be appropriate to your client. So you may or may not know the monthly management expenses, who's going to let it out. Will the property be furnished? Again, answer these questions as they're appropriate to your particular case. I've just put in £1,500. I know that won't give much extra than the mortgage payment, but I've just put in £1,500. Is the client going to run a business, etc., etc., etc.? Answer the questions there, and then make sure that the property owners are in here as well. You can drop down and select, and depending what you've got on the case will depend on those choices. Once you've done all of that, then literally just save that. Okay, so down here to save your changes. And then we added in their existing property, their existing mortgage. So this is their existing mortgage, the same as you would do with any that you built. Again, I've put in some weird and wonderful figures, but just make sure that you're adding it in correctly. Also be aware that this here, the start date, is the original start date of the mortgage. Okay, I've put it in yesterday. But then here is the original mortgage term. Okay. I believe Acre may well be just rewording that to say original, but it needs to be the original mortgage term. And then what Acre will do is it'll work out the difference from the date that you've put in to the remaining term. But just be aware of that. Okay, we've had a few questions where that's got confusing, where people have put in the new mortgage term. This is the original mortgage term. And again, fill it in as is appropriate to your clients. Okay. So what we're going to do then is we're going to go over to our mortgage sourcing, okay? And our products, I'll just show you, you've got your existing product in here, and then we're going to run our mortgage sourcing. There's a little bit of something we need to do in here as well when we run the sourcing, but let's run the sourcing first of all. Okay, now we can see here we've got our sourcing in as normal and it all comes through. And then up here up the top where we've got buy to let remortgage, we just need to change that to let to buy. Okay, just to make sure that we get the correct criteria. Now, I know you know that a lot of the buy to let mortgages will be happy with that as well, but some won't. So we just do that to put that extra filter in. Okay. And then what we're going to do here is we're just going to select the top one, but as somebody said before, you might be selecting one down here for whatever reason. One little tip I'll just say, you may have already got this, so forgive me if I'm teaching Granny to suck eggs. But sometimes when you get lots of different products, some of them will, especially when you're looking at things like product switches, etc. Some will be further advanced, some will be product switch, some will be just a normal remortgage. So if you just hover over the name, it gives you a little bit of detail about the product. Okay, so you can see here Barclays buy to let, Newcastle is the same product, okay, slightly different rates. And then if you scroll down, it just gives you that little bit of information. So if you're not looking at a product transfer per se, let's say with Bank of Ireland, you're looking at a further advance, the next product down might be the further advanced product. So just check it, okay? What do we want to change the term on the existing part of the mortgage? Again, if you're putting in a new product or you're resourcing, then at that point you would want to change it. You obviously can't change the term on the existing mortgage because the existing mortgage, if you're changing things on it, you'd have to either do a switch or a transfer or a remortgage. So when you're creating your new product for the bit that you're actually doing, you can make sure that you're changing at that point to the terms. I promised I wasn't going to look at the questions and Fatma would deal with them, but sorry, it just caught the corner of my eye. So we're going to select Newcastle Building Society just because it's at the top. Same as ever. If you select one that isn't the lowest true cost, then you know that you'll get this in. Some of you haven't been on your training yet, I know. You'll get in here, this will be in red, and it'll say this is not the lowest true cost over the initial term. And you will have the opportunity to pop some notes in here to say why you've not gone with the lowest true cost. Okay. And again, you're the advisors, you are advising your client the appropriate product, and that may not always be the lowest over the true cost. So just pop in why you've done that. The notes would be here. You just pop that in and then save it to the case. Okay. It's running really slow. Okay, so we've saved that back to our case. Okay, and then I'm just going to go back into the case. And again, as I said, you will have individual sort of scenarios that are slightly different, and you might have to put slightly different figures in, etc. But the mechanics of this and how it looks in the suitability letter will that's what we're looking to show you today. Okay, so we've got our product here, Newcastle Building Society. Okay, and what we're going to do, we're just going to go ahead and recommend that product. So again, we're making lots of assumptions here, I know, but it's just to show the mechanics of the suitability letters. So we're going to check everything's okay. We've got our product, our case fees in, which we set up right at the beginning of the case, and then we're going to make our recommendation. As you probably see, it'll pop up here. You'll get your ESIS document downloaded, and it will also drop onto the case. The ESIS document downloads, so perhaps if you sat in front of your client or anything, you can go through the ESIS document with your client straight away. But it downloads to the case. But it literally just drops it as a PDF onto your documents, or onto your machine. It'll be in your downloads, but it will also be in the documents folder on here. Okay. So next, we've made our recommendation. So we're just going to go over here and go to our suitability. And then we're going to look at the suitability. Now, I know that different things will impact different things. And this is just a scenario that we're running through. But again, just bear in mind that I'm showing you the mechanics rather than individual cases. So again, we've got our letters, pop in obviously appropriate things, don't write that rubbish. And then our recommendation summary. And then the usual stuff that we see here, client's objectives, etc., etc. Okay. And then their existing, you have a current outstanding balance of 200,000. So their existing property. Then this is where this comes in here, when we put those details in. Okay. As part of my research for buy-to-let and this cost related to running a rental property, you confirmed the following. That was when we were creating the existing in the property details. When we put this in, it just shows that. Then you pop in any clients or any rental voids or any potential increases that might be more than that £163. Again, the why and the conversations that you've had. Don't write rubbish in like that. Then details of the recommendation, okay, and then why you've recommended that product, why you've recommended that, why you've recommended that, why you've recommended the term. Here you've got a cost comparison showing the new buy-to-let mortgage, okay, so it's a buy-to-let remortgage. We're doing it for a let-to-buy purpose, where it's a buy-to-let remortgage. It shows that the new mortgage is slightly more expensive than the existing mortgage. And all I've just put in there to explain that is the existing mortgage is not a buy-to-let, and you intend to rent out the property. Okay, so the lowest true cost buy-to-let property is this, and even though that's a little bit more than yours, it wouldn't work. Okay, and then the rest of the stuff that's available on all of your suitability reports, feedback, etc., the important information. And then you would just go, I've already saved this report, just go over here and save your changes, and then publish the report if it was appropriate at that time. You've not finished, save your changes and come back in when you want to, and make any other changes to the suitability report, and then save those changes. Once you're fully happy that you've fully completed that suitability report and everything's as you want it to be, then publish the report and continue right through the process. Okay, and then your let to buy, that would be your existing property going onto your buy to let remortgage, and then you would complete your purchase on your new property as normal. Okay. Okie dokie. So what we're going to do now, we're going to have a look at debt consolidation case, and then I want to show you again the mechanics of building it. Remember though, if you do use the credit file option, let me just get rid of this off the screen. If you do use the credit file option where the client can access the credit file, remember that the debt will populate in, and then you would just literally be selecting that outstanding debt. And also remember, as I say on the training, remember that when you get your client's credit report, sorry, when you get your client's credit report, remember that it might not be bang up to date. It should be fairly recent, but if your client's done anything over the last few days, then maybe it might not be bang up to date. So again, just check. Again, I know I'm stating the obvious, but we do find sometimes that when people run these things and they think, "Whoa, brilliant! All of the credit files brought everything through," they somehow forget to just check. And have you got anything else? And again, credit files don't always show everything all the time, bang up to date. Okay. So let's have a look at our debt consolidation case. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to create a remortgage case, because of course we're going to be consolidating debt. So again, we're going to create a remortgage case, and then over here in our fact find, we'll go into our case details. And what we're doing in here is we've got our remortgage details. This is our current mortgage. I'll show you that in the properties in a second. This is our current mortgage. And then what we want to add in is what is the extra borrowing that we want to do. So whether this was debt consolidation or further advance, it's the same process. And I'll show you on the further advance later, but it's the same process. So literally we add in whatever the figure is, okay? And then we choose what that is for. Okay, so you can see here, home improvements, debt consolidation, etc. Okay, so we add in what we want, okay, in our case details, go through our fact finding exactly the same way, go to our properties, and this is our property that we want to remortgage. Okay, so we're going to go in and fill out all of our property details in our remortgage, but we also need to tell ACRE that we want some debt. Okay, we want some debt added to our new remortgage. And where is that debt and what is it? So over in our credit file or credit section, you can see here I've already added some details in for credit cards, etc. I'll show you how we do this in a second. I won't add any more, but I'll show you how it's added, and then I'll just won't save it. Okay, so in your credit arena, you just add a commitment, whatever that commitment is. It's up to date, what it is, credit card, store card, etc. Okay, fill in the details as it says here. Okay, now depending on the situation, you may or may not have a start date and account number. You know, for a particular, like for example, for a credit card, you might have a date that they got the credit card, but there's no particular end date. So again, you can, if it's not appropriate, you can leave the fields blank. Okay, and then once you've filled all of those details in, whether it's a credit card, whatever it is, etc., then literally all that we want to do is over here we'll take yes to consolidate that debt, and then it's not going to be paid before the new mortgage starts because we want to consolidate it. And once you've added that, then you would just save and close. So I'm just going to come out of that. So you can see here I've set up some debt already. We've got 2,000 on a credit card, 2,700, sorry, 5,000 on a loan, 300 on a credit card, and 2,000. And as we created each one of those, we just put a tick in the box to consolidate it. And you can see here it's told Acre that we're consolidating the debts. Okay. So again, really straightforward. If that's come through from credit file, then you just go into each individual one and consolidate. You can also do it here. So we can see here now that we've got this particular amount consolidating into our new mortgage. So our remortgage plus our debt consolidation. So over in our properties, we've already put it all in. I'll just run through it again, but we've already put in our property details, okay, the amount, etc. Again, I've made them up, so they may not look. And then our existing mortgage details would go in here, and we would need to put our existing mortgage details in so that we could then run our remortgage sourcing. Okay, so then we go over to our sourcing. Whoops. And then our mortgage sourcing. Okay, just waiting for my screen to come up. Okay, so we've run our sourcing here, and you can see across the top here we've got 110,000 that we require. I'm just going to pick the top one again. Again, you may pick one that's further down for whatever reason. Okay, so I'm just going to pick the top one again, and we're going to save that to case. So you can see this is a free remortgage with legal fees. Okay, is that the one that we want, or is there another one here, remortgage cashback? Is there any that's particularly specific to our scenario? No. Okay, we're fine with that remortgage. Okay. So as you know, with debt consolidation, we need to have a ESIS with the debt consolidation added and an ESIS without. So we're going to get our first ESIS with it added. So we're going to save that to the case. So that's the one that we're going to go with, if you like. That's the 110. So we've got 100,000 existing and the 10,000 that we've added. Eventually, at some time in the distant future. This will be because we're sharing screens, and although I've turned my camera off, it's still, the video's still running, so it will be that. Okay, so we've got that, we've saved it back to our product. So what we want to do now is we want to go in and we want to take off, if you like, our 10,000 and 10,000, so we can show without that. I'm just gonna, I can't remember where it sits. Is it in product? There we go. So we've got our remortgage uplift here of 10,000. So that's our debt consolidation. So just take it out of there. And then also at the top here, we're just going to change this to 100,000. Okay. If my keyboard works. And this is just purely and simply so we can produce the ESIS without the debt consolidation on. So there we go. We've got our ESIS without the debt consolidation. We just pop that. We'll save that to the case. And those of you that have used Acre so far know about your shortlists. So in your shortlist, we'll have one with the debt added, one without the debt added. Okay. So once we're happy that we've got both of them, back across to our remortgage case. Okay, and then down to our products. And you can see here on our shortlist, we've got 3 because I've left in one that I've done before. So let me just get rid of that. Okay. We'll get rid of that one. Nope, we'll keep that one. We'll get rid of these 2 that were previous. You do so many tests with so many cases, you forget which ones you've left recommended and which ones you haven't. Okay. Okay, so just now that I've done the tidying up, so what you can see here is we've got a product with the 110, so with the 10,000 debt consolidation added, and then the same product with the 100,000 without the debt. And then we can just go in and produce and view the ESIS for there, but it's already there, or we can generate that ESIS if we do want to give it to the client, if it's appropriate to give to the client. But that's already there. So we've got our 2 ESIS, okay? And then we're going to make our recommendation of the one with the debt consolidation added. Okay, so the extra 10,000. So we're just going to recommend that product. And you can see the process is pretty much exactly the same as all of the others. Once we've got our shortlist and we're happy with the product, we can just recommend it. Before we recommend it, we can get an ESIS if we want to discuss ESIS with clients, or we want before we've actually made that recommendation. Once we've made our recommendation, what that does is it generates all of the needs within the suitability letter. So it puts all of the things that it needs to into the suitability letter. Do you have to do any ESIS with that and without debt? So I think the same product. It would depend on the circumstances, Duncan. What you're showing is that the client, if the client adds the debt to adds the outstanding debt to the mortgage debt, you're showing the difference if they did and if they didn't. So it would depend on the individual circumstances. Most of the time, it will be the same product, but it will depend. Sometimes it is a different product that comes up that shows, but generally speaking, what we're trying to do is illustrate, if you add it, this is how much it'll be. If you don't add it, this is how much it'll be. So I wanted to show you a couple of things in here that's really important. So we've got our usual objectives, etc., our mortgage preferences, the reason to select those preferences. So why have you selected a fix with no tie-in? Why do you want to fix for 2 years? Okay, the reason we talked about those products and that type of products. Affordability and budget, again, whatever's appropriate, type in once you've had your conversations with your clients. You told me that you do not expect any changes. And then we've got the credit history. Okay, so we've got the details of the recommendation, why you've recommended it. Okay, again, you would write much more comprehensive and appropriate things in here. The mortgage term. Okay, and then I've completed a cost comparison. The benefits remaining of your existing lender or remortgage to lender, I've recommended it. Your remortgage is greater than the outstanding balance on your existing mortgage. You wanted to raise additional funds too, and then whatever the reason, okay, to consolidate your current debts, to consolidate some of your current debts, whatever it is, okay. And then you can see here that the paragraph relating to the MCD pulls through, okay. So I've made you aware of the range of options available for raising additional finance, and those paragraphs pull through, okay. And then the debt that you're actually consolidating, and then the reasons why you've discounted those options above. Okay, so exactly what you're doing now, it's just in the suitability letter, and it's there for you to type in. Okay, and then anything that's appropriate, and then scroll down, and your suitability letter's done. But I think the key things to understand in this is it lists all the debt, obviously, but it also drops in the MCD paragraph, and then just asks you to explain why you've done this and not a further advance, this and not a second charge, which is exactly what you do now. Those of you that's been on the training so far will probably be sick of me saying, if we don't tell you that a policy has changed, nothing has changed. Okay, I do say that quite a lot. Once we're happy with everything on there, again, we can save our changes. If we're happy that that's all done and it's ready to go out to the client, then we can publish the report. And if we're not, then we can just come back in when we feel it's appropriate, fill in the details, and then publish it. You know, you may not have quite finished it. Remember, the 5-day rule still applies. So you may not quite have finished it. So you can save changes and you can come back into the report. But at any point, once you're happy that that's okay, then publish your report. Okay. Okay, so further advance, we're going to have a look at further advance. Further advance is pretty similar. I'm not going to say exactly the same because it's not obviously not exactly the same, but it's pretty similar to your debt consolidation. Okay, let me just find my further advance case. I don't know where I've put it, I've got that many in here. It might be right at the top. There we go. So slightly different figures, just for the sake of me not going mad, putting the same figures in and everything. So again, further advance, we're going to remortgage and we're going to take out extra money to do some home improvements, whatever we are. So again, in our fact find, in our case details, we'd add in our additional borrowing as we did before. So this is our current mortgage. And then we're going to add in our additional borrowing. And then we're going to say it's for home improvements, whatever it's for. Okay. So we're just going to say home improvements. Again, no equity, no deposits, etc. Unless your client is putting a deposit in, but we're not. So your client may well say, I'm not sure why you would do that, why you would remortgage, raise 20 grand and then put a deposit in. But so don't put anything in here. We are remortgaging. We'll put the property details in, and that will work out the loan to value, etc. Okay. So once we're happy with that, we'll go into our properties as before. Okay. My screen seems to be really slow today. We've got our property purchase price, etc. We've got our primary residence, all of the same stuff as before. Okay. And then we've got our existing mortgage. Okay, so again, I've made up the figures, etc. But we've got our existing mortgage on here. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go down to our sourcing. And then run our mortgage sourcing. As you know, you can do that from the other page. I just come over to the left. So what you can see here now is you've got your existing and your top up. Now, again, this is what I was talking about before. Now, as I can't remember because the name's gone up there before, as somebody said before, it might be way down here. But what you've got is all of the existing. And then as you scroll down, you've got completely new remortgages. So if you wanted to just remortgage the whole lot and not do a further advance, then there's remortgages, and then they're probably not on here, or they might be so far down it's ridiculous. But second charges, if it's appropriate, will come up in orange. So they're usually either further down, or if we've not got the permissions to do them, you wouldn't see them. But let's go back up to the top, because I wanted to point out here, you've got a few products. And remember when we hovered over the product before? So this is a product switch. So that's not what we want. So let's have a look at that one. Yeah, this is the one we want, customer borrowing more. Okay. And you can see that they are actually the same product. You can see over on the true costs, 25,619, 25,619. But of course, you don't want to be creating something for the wrong product. So just check just by hovering over the product, and it'll bring up details of the product. So we're just going to select that one. Okay. And then we're going to save that to our case. I'm hoping I haven't forgot to remove the others, but as you saw before, it's not that difficult to quickly remove things from your shortlist. So that's been saved to our case. We'll go over into our products. I'm sure some of you have found a much more efficient way of doing this than I do, coming back into the case and then going across. But okay. And you can see here that we've got some recommended products. Let's get rid of that one. We've got our shortlisted products, and we've got two because I did it yesterday. So I'm just going to take that one out. Don't want to get confusing. I mean, you could have more than two products. Sorry, more than one product in there. You could have more than one in there. It depends on whatever is on your particular client's circumstance, or is your particular client's circumstances. God, you can tell it's Friday and I've been talking all week. My brain's not keeping up with my mouth. Okay, so there's our existing. We've got our existing product. Okay, 150, and we're taking our extra borrowing out. Okay, so we're going to recommend that product. And then over in our suitability, when it eventually goes through. There we go. Okay, even Acre's tired at the end of the week as well. And again, your suitability letter, again, if you've put things in here, I've done this previously, but you would be writing in here what's appropriate for your client, etc. Okay, your summary, as we said before, your scope of service, client's objectives will not be the same, obviously, but are the same sort of information. It'll differ client to client, of course it will. Reason for your preferences, and then your current mortgage, okay. And then you've confirmed that your existing mortgage has an early repayment charge, which will pull through depending on what you've put in. So remember, when you create the mortgage product, take your time, make sure you get it right, because it's going to have an impact on everything. And then we scroll down, normal stuff. If you add credit history, it will be here. And then details of the recommendation. So we're recommending our further advance. we're recommending our further advance with HSBC. Okay. And then after that, obviously the new mortgage will be the total of the two. Why you're recommending that particular product, that mortgage, etc. Okay, usual stuff. Your mortgage term, why that's appropriate, and if that's changed, why it's appropriate that it's changed, etc. Okay. And then anything regarding cost comparison, if it raised in the future, the usual stuff you put in. So I'm not going to insult your intelligence saying put this in, put that in. And then you've got here, I've made you aware that there's a range of options. So again, that pulls through from an MCD point of view. Mortgage Credit Directive, sorry, we shouldn't use acronyms. Mortgage Credit Directive that we need to make our clients aware. Okay, so nice, really nice and straightforward. And as you can see, the majority of the sort of, I suppose we can call it automated suitability letter, but you still have to do some work in it. But the majority of these letters are created as you go through the fact find. So the majority of the content of the letter, rather, what you're doing is the bit that you do so well, the bit that why you've recommended this, why you've done this, why it's that, etc. And a lot of this is generated from the input. And also as you go through your fact find, if it's appropriate, you can start to fill in the letter. There are boxes within the fact find that when you put in details within those boxes, they'll come through to your suitability letter. And then if you then decide that you want to add to it when it's in here, you can do. And if you say, okay, I've just put some notes in the fact find, I'm going to change it when I get in here, you can do. Or put nothing in the fact find, and when you get in here, complete all of these. Whatever works for you in your process. Again, I say this quite a lot on the training. Those of you that's been on the training will know. Do not change what you do on a day-to-day, your business model, to suit Acre. Use Acre to help you do what you do on a day-to-day basis. Let Acre do the heavy lifting. Let Acre do a lot of the sort of the work that you don't need to do, the administration work. Let it do it. So type things once. So right at the beginning of the fact find, if you've got information, even though you might think, well, it's not really that appropriate here, I don't really need to put it in here. If you've got information, you can put it in, because then it'll go everywhere it needs to go. So think about that process. In Acre, realistically, you only want to be typing things once. Sometimes you'll have to type things more than once, but generally speaking, where you can type things once, put it in. If you've got the information, and as soon as it's available for you to put it in, put it in. A good example of that, and I know a lot of you wouldn't have it right early on, is the mortgage account details, the bank account details. But if your client's taking the mortgage from an existing bank account, you've got those details, put them in right on the front page. You'll need them at some point in the future. Okay, so stop waffling, Aidan. So over here, we're going to go and save our changes. Again, if you've fully completed everything, remember your 5 working day window. You might not have fully completed it as swiftly as I've done here, because in the real world, other things will impact on your time, etc. But remember, from submitting your application, everything needs to be on the case within 5 working days. So save your changes. If you're happy on everything, you can publish your report. And then the usual stuff about uploading your documents. Make sure you've got all the documents that you need uploaded. Make sure you've got everything in here. Click on your upload. Click on go and find your documents in your client's file. Remember, it will go to the last client you were in, so make sure you're in the right client file. And I just want to reiterate this, the customer wellbeing checklist, just to make sure, because some of you will have been on early training, and we said to you, make sure you mark it as internal. When you upload the customer wellbeing checklist now, in the document type, as long as you type in wellbeing, so if you start to type in wellbeing assessment and then select that, it will automatically make it an internal document. Okay, so that's just for the people who are on the early training. We said make it an internal document here. If you do make it internal, it will still be internal, but all of the work is done behind the scenes here. So when you upload the document as a well-being assessment, make sure you make the document type well-being assessment, and that will automatically make it an internal document. Just something I wanted to make you aware of, because it's changed since some of you had your original training. Okay. So that's pretty much everything from having a look at that. I know it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour and it's only an hour, but what we're trying to do is build on the information and build on things, rather than try and say, okay, let's sit you down for 4 days and talk about every possibility that you may come across in Acre. Because 1, we can't do that, and 2, it just wouldn't go in. One thing to be aware of, okay, I'm hoping I'm still sharing my screen. Yes, I am. One thing to be aware of is there's a lot of support on our advisor site. So if you go to the advisor site and click on the tab, these tabs that roll across, wait for the acre support tab, or click back if it's moved, click on there, it will take you here. In here, there are lots and lots of things that will help you and support you. So there's a link to the knowledge base. Now, you know you need to be logged into Acre in order to get to the knowledge base. And then scrolling down, there's lovely guides that have been put together by our marketing, how to set up profiles, etc. Because some of you are having a little bit of an issue with that initially, and that's because it's new. Okay, so it'll hopefully walk you through that. About the compliance flags, what you can do, what you can lift and what you can't lift, and so on and so forth. And then any release notes, and then some really useful videos at the bottom here. Okay, again, what we've just gone through. And what we've done today, we have recorded, so we will put it on here. We just need to take time to get it sorted out and get it rendered. Okay, so I'm just going to stop that now.